Thank you everybody for joining us for this webinar. We're going to talk about the Technical Assistance Grant application and do a live walkthrough of the application process. All right, so first a couple logistic things. These are the meeting guidelines. So by participating in this meeting, you understand that the meeting is being recorded. You understand you may be muted for background noise. The chat feature will be used for DTSC informational purposes and any questions or comments. We also will have Vivian dropping links in the chat as well. Following the presentation, your questions and comments will be addressed. And I also want to note that this presentation will be uploaded to the DTSC website soon. All right, so language and captions. So simultaneous audio interpretation is available through Zoom. You want to, like I said, click the interpretation icon at the bottom of your screen or Zoom app to select language. I think I'm hearing some, okay, never mind. It is important that everyone selects a language. If you're calling by phone only and would like Spanish audio interpretation, please call 877-917-6178. You're going to enter code 4180779#. So, si está llamando por teléfono y desea escuchar en español, por favor llame al 877-917-6178 y entre el código 418-0779 Libra. So Spanish translated presentation slides are also going to be available on the meeting announcement at the DTSC tag webpage. Automated closed captions have been enabled. You can turn them off by clicking the CC icon or by moving the captions box. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into the presentation. The purpose of this webinar, of course, is to provide you with support on how to successfully complete a tag application. And so now I'm going to pass it over to Ed Moreland, Branch Chief at DTSC, to get us started. Take it away, Ed.
Thank you, Nicole. Well, good evening, everybody. I just want to express our gratitude for joining us this evening on a midweek evening. We really appreciate that. As Nicole said, I'm Ed Moreland. I'm Branch Chief for the Department of Toxic Substances Control in Southern California. And I'm also the development lead for the Technical Assistance Grants Program, the TAG program you'll hear many times this evening. Some of you are probably familiar with TAG already. We held a webinar to introduce and kind of break out TAG to the communities on December 6th of 2023, and it gave a whole overview of TAG. And this is a follow-up to that webinar. This webinar focuses specifically on the nuts and bolts, the mechanics of how to apply the actual application for a TAG grant. For those of you that were not able to make the December 6th webinar, we did record that webinar and include that on DTSC's website, the TAG portion of the DTSC website. So I'd encourage you to consult and visit the website for not only the recording of that program, that webinar, but also we have our TAG guidelines on the DTSC website, as a fair amount of additional useful information on how to apply for technical assistance grant. So as we start tonight, I'd like to start off with the first bullet that's on here. A TAG grant is meant to provide vulnerable communities with professional and scientific resources to engage and advocate for community needs in environmental cleanups. So what does that mean? What does that come down to? That really, the makeup of the TAG program is really two parts. The core part of it is fundamentally providing funds so that communities can hire a technical advisor And what does a technical advisor do? The purpose of a technical advisor is to translate complex technical and scientific information into terms that are understandable by non-scientists. Pretty straightforward, but that might include a variety of support for the community that hires a technical advisor. It can mean anything from attending meetings, public meetings with DTSC, and being able to take that information in and give it back to the community in a meaningful way. It may mean the assistance or assisting the communities with providing feedback to DTSC in ways that is really constructive in terms of moving our cleanup processes forward. So technical advisors are a key element of the TAG program and a grant. The second aspect of a TAG grant is to potentially provide funds for opportunity to collect community science and sampling activities in connection with those site cleanups. And that is to collect, for communities to be able to collect their own data with regard to those site cleanups and what is actually happening in their communities. And that really might take a couple of different forms. It might mean confirming that as a cleanup is going on within a community, that it's being performed by the cleanup entity in a way that's being protective of the community. For instance, things like as earth is being moved on a cleanup site, that is not generating dust that could be potentially harmful to community members. And it's a matter of collecting that information and verifying that that isn't happening. Or it might mean collecting soil samples in the vicinity of these project sites, and maybe it's in their backyards, with regard to ensuring that that pollution from that site and that site cleanup hasn't impacted their yards. So that's kind of the range of what TAG is about. The grants, individual grants, range anywhere from a kind of low end of $40,000 to a higher end of $150,000. And the reason for that wide range really is twofold at least. It's based on the complexity of the cleanup that's being undertaken and overseen by DTSC, but it's also tied to whether or not that confirmation sampling or community science activity is desired to be part of the grant itself. And the reason for that is if things like sampling are involved with that community science activity, things like soil sampling, the analysis for those types of activities can be very expensive. So we wanted to be able to accommodate things like sampling just to give communities a sense that they really are engaged in part of the process of that cleanup. Couple additional elements with regard to these TAG grants. The technical assistance grants are going to be operated on a rolling application basis, which means there's not a firm, say, annual deadline with regard to what community groups must need to be able to receive a grant. And the second thing is that the grants really have a limited time value, if you will. They're good for a maximum of a 2-year period. And the reason for that is that's based on the time period that the legislation came into play, gave the department to be able to expend those funds. So those are kind of what a TAG grant is about in a nutshell. Next slide, please. So the steps to apply for a TAG grant. What you've seen through numbers 1 through 6 here are the general steps that we're going to be talking about tonight in more detail after I finish my kind of introductory presentation. But what I'd like to do is touch upon some of the key elements you'll see in these steps that we have out in front of you. One, you'll see in the bullet or number 2 is we talk about eligibility. Applicants for technical assistance grants must be representative of vulnerable communities. And that's as defined in the tag guidelines that I mentioned that are on DTSC's website. They need to fall into the category of being a vulnerable community. The second set of term there on bullet number 4 is we talk about letters of intent. And what we mean by letters of intent are that a potential recipient of a tag grant we need to notify the remaining part of that community that that group is applying for a tag grant. And the reason we need to do that is if we need to notify the community that if others are interested in applying for a grant or being part of that process, they need to know, and they need to be given time to be able to have conversations with that applicant that is putting in the application. And if they desire to try to get together to join forces, if you will, to be able to submit a combined application for a tag grant. And the reason for that is one of the rules for the program is that we're only going to be awarding one tag grant per site, per DTSC cleanup site. So we'd like to have as much participation as we can. If two entities decide that they want to go their own way to apply for separate applications, they're fine to do so. But at that point in time, those two applications will be competing against one another for that single grant. So that's why we encourage that if multiple entities are out there, that they get together under one application. The last thing really is that the applicant groups need to meet certain criteria. You can see in number 5 there, we talk about proof of 501c3 status. So the group or its fiscal sponsor needs to be a nonprofit organization. And the applicant needs to have the support of the community itself. And that's either via signatures from members of the community or letters of support, 3 letters of support from the community. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and move on to the details of the mechanics of the presentation for tonight. And those are going to be shared with you by Monica Hope, one of our staff who was integral in the development of the Fluxx program for TAG. So over to you, Monica.
Thanks, Ed. So as Ed mentioned, my name is Monica. I helped create the application, and the application is held on Fluxx, which is just a software on a website that it has an application portal. So you'll hear me talk about Fluxx a lot today, and that's just the website that holds the application. So part of today's topics are going to include some Fluxx reminders and tips. Again, Fluxx being just the application portal, how you'll create an application on Fluxx, how to start an application. And then I'll do a walkthrough on how to apply. And in that walkthrough, again, I'll show you how you start an application and then how you will complete it on the Fluxx portal. On the different sections we'll talk about are eligibility, advanced pay, project budget, project description, signatures and attestation, and how to submit an application. And then once I've completed that, I'll pass it on to go over the plans for success. First of all, I want to give some reminders about Fluxx. The application portal does not auto-save. So when you are working on your application, you have to make sure that you save often. There are 2 different ways you can save. One of them is to click save and continue, which just refreshes your page and lets you continue editing your application. And then you can also hit save and close, which will close out your application, get you out of editing mode, and then you're safe to exit out and continue at a later time. Also, Chrome is a preferred browser, so while you're working on your application, please use Chrome if possible. On the application, there can be additional users or additional people that have access to the application that you can add in the application contact section, and we'll go over that in more detail later. And changes cannot be made after your application is submitted, so make sure you review carefully and have everything ready before submission. If there's any issues or questions, you can contact tag Fluxx at dtsc.ca.gov. Next slide. So first of all, we'll talk about how to create an account. To create an account, you go to the link you see there on the page, and that will take you to a screenshot similar to the one you see on the right. And on the right-hand side of that page, you'll see where it says new to the application grant portal. And then at the very bottom, there's a button that says create an account now. And we have outlined that in yellow. That's what you'll click to create your account. Next slide. Once you've done that, it'll bring you to the contact information page. And this is where you'll fill in your contact information for yourself and the organization that you're applying with. We want to give a reminder that while we can have multiple users that contribute to the application, the first person to register and start the application should be a representative of the organization that is going to receive the funding. We refer to them as a grantee. So the grantee should create an application. They'll get to this page and they'll fill in the organization information. And again, that's the organization applying for the funding, and fill in their own personal information. And once they've done that, they'll hit submit request, which again, we've outlined in yellow on the slide. Once you've submitted that request, you will be sent an approval email, or you'll receive an email that has your assigned username and password once you've been approved. It'll be similar to what you see on the right. It'll come from DTSC. It'll come from DTSC Grants Management Portal, and it'll give you your username, and there'll be a link for you to click on to set up your password. A side note that it can take 1 to 2 business days for this email to be sent, and make sure to check your spam folder if you're not seeing the email. Next page. Once you have that username and your password set, you'll go to the Fluxx website link that we went over on the first slide, and you'll go to the login page and put in that information and click sign in. Next slide. And then once you've signed in, you'll be taken to the DTSC application grant portal main page. There's just some information about what can be found on the portal and more information there about different programs you can apply to. But for tag, to submit a request or to submit an application, you look on the left-hand side menu bar and click on submit an application, which is the second option in that menu bar. Next slide. Once you click that, you'll be taken to the application, to that start application page. Because DTSC uses this portal for a couple different programs, there are a couple other programs listed on the page. So make sure you scroll down to the bottom of the page where you see a heading that says Technical Assistance Grant. And then there's a green box that says Start a Request for Technical Assistance Grant. And again, we've outlined it in yellow. That's what you'll click to start your application. Next slide. Once you click that, it will open up a new application, and it will already be in edit mode. Edit mode being where you can actually fill in the application. And with that, before we leave this slide, I just want to show that I'll highlight it in yellow at the bottom in the screenshot. Just shows you where you will find the save button and the save and close button to use while you're working on your application. So now with that, go on to the next slide. We're going to do a walkthrough showing you how to get onto the tag application page, how to fill out your application, and then just different steps on how to fill in the information needed for your application. We'll go over the eligibility section, advanced pay, project budget, project description, signature and attestations, and then how to ultimately submit the application. All right, so can I just get, or could someone just tell me whether or not they see my screen? All right, so when you go to the DTSC Fluxx link, you'll be taken to this main page. Right here is where you would click to create an account if you need to create one. Once you've already got that information, you'll just log in using the space on the left-hand side. This is that landing page I was talking about. It just has information about the DTSC application grant portal. And here on the left-hand side in the menu bar, in the second space down is where you see submit an application. You want to click that. And then there's a couple different programs listed here, as I mentioned, but you just want to scroll down to where you see the header that says Technical Assistance Grant or TAG. And that's where you click on the green box that says Start a Request for Technical Assistance Grant. When you do that, it's going to open up a new application, which we see here, and it's already in edit mode, so you can start working right away. We have a couple of boxes for you that had information about getting started and DTSC application portal tips. So in the getting started box, there's some links available for you that include the tag guidelines, links to participate in or view pre-recorded tag webinars. There's a link for the tag website where you can find more information about the program. And there's also a link where you can schedule an appointment for free assistance and an application review through the DTSC technical assistance provider. There's just also some notes about how Fluxx, how the applicant is going to appear on Fluxx and the DTSC rights of determining eligibility. The next box is tips for how to use this portal, and they're very specific just to filling out the application. Again, noting that Chrome is a preferred browser, telling you how to enter edit mode if you aren't already in it, a reminder to save often, some tricks on what to do if your application page is being unresponsive, reminder that changes can't be made after submission. There is an email link for if you are experiencing issues on Fluxx with your application, you can send an email to dtsc_tag program@dtsc.ca.gov, and they can help you with any issues you have with Fluxx with your tag application. And then there's just a couple other hints and tricks for how to use Fluxx. So moving on, we'll go to the first section of the application. It's the eligibility section. This section helps you determine if you're eligible for the tag grant. When you see anything that has an arrow, that's a drop-down box, and you have to click one of the options in the box for the question. A good thing to note is that all questions on the application are in bold, and they're numbered. They might not be numbered sequentially, but that just has to do with some logic with the way our questions come about. But any questions are in bold, and then you might also see some font that is in italicized. And when you see that, that's guidance information for the question above. So just quickly showing you how these drop-down box works. If the applicant you either are a representative of the community or tribe, you click on one of those. And then another thing to note is if you were to click or something that makes you ineligible for the tag application grant, the tag assistance grant, you will see a red pop-up box that tells you right away that you're not eligible. So that's a thing to know about the application. When you are applying for the tag grant, they'll want to know the DTSC cleanup site that is near your organization. And in order to find out what cleanup site is near you, or if you're within 5 miles of an active cleanup site, you'll click this link and it'll take you to a mapping tool that was created specifically for this application. When you click on that link, it'll take you to a web page that looks like this. There will be a search bar on the top left. That's where you'll search the address of your organization. And when you hit enter, your address will show up as a green dot on the map. If your green dot is within a pink circle, that means you're within 5 miles of a tag eligible site. And that site location will appear as a little circle that says tag, and it'll show you right where that site is. When you are filling out your application, there will be some information you need to write about the site and about Cal EnviroScreen scores. And you'll find that information on the bottom right. There'll be a box that says tag eligible sites. You would click on that and find the site that the site that you are applying for. And when you scroll down, there'll be address information. And then there also is the Cal EnviroScreen information in the boxes above. And you will use that information just to fill out questions 1D through L. So you use that mapping tool to fill out these questions. And moving on from there, you will be taken to the upload section. So as mentioned earlier, there are some documents that are required to apply for tag. Listed here are the different types of documents that might be required, but every applicant has a different list of documents that are required depending on the application type that you have. And to know exactly which documents you need to upload, you would go scroll up to question 1B, and depending on the kind of applicant type that you chose that you were, you'll have a list of the documents you need to upload in bold below question 1B. You'll upload those documents at the bottom of the eligibility section for documents such as the letter of intent, the DTSU response to letter of intent, and the proof of 501c3 status. You add them right on their line item where they're listed. You'll click the plus button to add that document. And then for the supporting documents, because it can either be 3 letters of support or a petition with 10 signatures, we just lumped it all into one section called document supporting documents, and you would upload them there. Once you finish the eligibility section, we move on to the contact information. The way Fluxx works, when you first created your account and you made your contact card and added in your organization, when you created the application, it will automatically link your name to that organization. So when you get to this part of the application, your organization will automatically be populated in this box. And same with your address. If you had multiple addresses, this is how you would choose which one you want to use. Your main contact, like I said, contacts with the organization automatically get linked. So anyone who you've added in your organization will be in this drop-down box. And when you create your application, there'll probably only be one contact in there. But the reason you see a lot in this is just because it's a test account, and so a lot of people have used it. If you need to add any contacts to your application, say you have a grant manager or someone else who needs additional access, you would click the Add New button, and this is where you'd fill in the information for the other contacts that need to access the application. You'd hit save, and that would create a contact, and then you can add them in this drop-down box. If you need to add a fiscal sponsor, there's space for you to fill in that information in this section. Quick question before I move on. Are we taking questions at the very end, or are we taking them throughout the presentation? Because I see someone has their hand raised.
We are gonna wait until the end to take them. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the person that had the hand raised, please make a note, and then I will answer your question at the end of the presentation.
Yeah, I will just say also that this meeting is being recorded and the recording will be uploaded to DTSC's YouTube. But if you have a question, go ahead and drop it in the chat for now, or you can wait until we get to the Q&A and then you can unmute and ask the question then.
The next section we have is advance pay. I am not gonna speak about this right now. We'll have someone from the advance pay team go over this section with you once I finish my walkthrough. But the advance pay application is held within the tag application. The next section is project budget. To fill this out, you'll add in the task categories that you plan to utilize with your tag app grant. And you'll need the budget for that category, start date and end date. And to fill in that information, you click on whatever task category you plan on using. So for your technical advisor, you can put in your budget, choose a start date and an end date. And then when you hit save, it'll automatically populate into this table below. And you can fill out as many of the categories as you want. And you just click on them and it'll bring down the boxes that you need to fill in. Once you fill out the table, it'll give you the total and just put that total into the box for 4B. Now, at this point in the application, we'll start to see some narrative questions. Narrative questions have character counts on them. So as you are filling in the narrative, you can see below that the character counts are in light gray, so you know how many characters you have left. And just answer the questions that you see in these narrative, just answer these narrative questions as they're asked. And there also tends to be a little more information about the narrative questions in the tag guideline. So we suggest having the tag guidelines open as you're filling out your application. The last part of the application is the project description section, and this is pretty much all narrative questions. Read the question and answer them. There's character counts again. And again, it's helpful to have the guideline as you're filling out these questions to know how best to answer them. There is one question that isn't narrative in this section, and it is having you fill in community engagement activities into a table. There is an example of what we want to see for the community engagement activities. You fill in your activity, the timeline, and the outcome. And to fill in this table, you would click on Add Community Engagement Activity. And then you add in what your activity is, when you plan to have it done by, and then the outcome that you want. And when you hit save, it'll get added to this table below. And this question below it is just referring to a bug. So if there is one narrative question that's referring to a table, it's usually right below and it'll reference it in the question. Once you finish that, you're pretty much done with the application, and all you're left with is your signature and attestations. It's kind of twofold how you fill this out. First, you check and agree to all the following. And then you also have to download the signature and attestation form. So when you click this, it'll take you to a download and it'll bring you to a PDF that looks like this. This PDF is pretty much the same as the signature and attestation form you see in the application. You want to fill in your organization information and just make sure it's correct and the same as the information you put in your application. And you're going to check off the boxes. They're just the same as you saw on the Fluxx application portal. And again, you're just attesting to the following. And then you're going to sign it and date it. Then just save this PDF. And that's what you'll upload right here. So download it, fill it in, save it, and then attach a copy right here to the bottom. That's it, where we have a space for the signed attestation form. That is the whole application. Just one note, just so you know, is you see this document sections down below. This is just where Fluxx puts all the documents that you added into your application so that they're all in one spot. So here's where you'll see all the documents you uploaded and also your signed attestation form. And that's it for the tag application part. Now I'll hand it over to Mario Guerrero, who's going to go over the advanced pay application portion.
Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and then I just wanted to confirm that everybody can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to start at kind of the beginning. And again, the submit application, scrolling down to the bottom towards the technical assistant grant, and then starting a request. They're going to click the button. It's going to load a little bit. Okay. And then, so yeah, you'd be going through your application, filling out the required document. In the section 3, as it relates to advanced pay, we do have some requirements that are listed down below, which are going to give you an indication of whether you are able to apply for advanced pay or not. For this exercise, we're just going to go ahead and select yes, so that way you can kind of see the process and how you'd go about applying for advanced pay. So at this section, we're going to hit yes. And if you notice, once we hit yes, then we kind of get like a second part of the chunk of advanced pay that pops up. And at this point, we're going to ask to please save the application and proceed to the advanced pay module by clicking the green plus below. And then doing this before you continue the application. Once you have completed the application, please click save and close, and then you'll find your application under the pending request module. Again, you must submit your advanced pay before submitting your tag application. So we're going to go ahead and click the plus. And we wanted to call out kind of this small screen for filling out the advanced pay information that is needed. This is kind of like a default for Fluxx. The workaround is for us to just kind of hit save and then go to your pending requests and actually work the advanced pay application in a larger scale. So we're going to go ahead and hit save. And then you can kind of see that we had this little chunk kind of pop up. We're going to hit save and close. And then we're going to go over to, on the left-hand side, pending requests. And at the top, we can see this is our advanced pay application in draft form. On the top right-hand corner near kind of the printer, we're going to hit edit. Now you can see it's much larger than what we were looking at on the tag application. And so kind of going through high level what's required. So the grantee name, location, primary contact, primary signatory, grantee invoice number, expenditure period as well. And then the amount requested, which right now is listed for $50,000. And again, this is going to be the 25% of the grant amount for the advance pay that you'd be requesting. We have the justification, which you're more than welcome to fill out here, or as well as upload via the green plus sign down below. Moving on, so who we would send the check to. Again, all this information would need to match your standard form STD 204-205. So we have the grantee name, and again, must be the same name as checks payable to. So we have this information for you to enter here, and then the address of where the checks are going. And then we go into kind of the needed documents or required documents. We do have guidance that we've provided in Word format that's listed here. If you click on it, it's going to want to take you to another site, which isn't really a site, it's just the document. To kind of circumvent that and not take you anywhere else, if you right click on it and click new tab, it will bring up the ability to download the guidance. And I've had that already ready for us to kind of take a look, so I'm not going to save it again. And again, I'm not going to go into the guidance. I'm just going to kind of just go over just what we have here, which is essentially just as it relates to the documents that are required. And again, you'd be able to kind of peruse that. And again, if any questions arise from that, you'd be able to reach out to our team and we'd be able to assist. So going back to the application. And again, these sections are the documents that are required to be uploaded into the system. And so by clicking on the plus, you'd be able to upload each required document for the advance pay. Scrolling down, like Monica mentioned, this is kind of where all the documents kind of go as far as where you as you upload them. And then we do have the signature upload, which again, this is going to be the typing your name and then the title of the person authorized, as well as the signature upload that we have available as well through the green plus down in the right-hand corner. And that's pretty much it. If any questions, like I said, you'd be able to reach out to us and we'd be able to assist. But that concludes the advance pay. So I'm going to pass it back to Nicole Lang from C-Clear. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Monica and Mario, for those thorough walkthroughs. All right, so here are some tips for you to plan for success. First one is you want to be sure that you visit DTSC's tag website to find any resources, including that's where we will upload the link to the recording of this webinar. You want to be sure that you review the tag guidelines, which were amended on December 18th, as well as the tag Fluxx user guide that kind of gives you a basic step-by-step walkthrough of what we've gone through tonight. You want to make sure that you are using the eligibility self-check tool, that you're gathering your documents and your information before you're applying so that you have everything ready. And then something else that we really encourage you to do is set up an appointment for application assistance with the Center for Creative Land Recycling, also known as C-Clear, which we will go into a little bit more about C-Clear's role in the following slide. And then, like Monica previously said, you want to be sure that you review your application very carefully before you submit, because you cannot edit it after you have submitted. And then if you have any other issues or questions, you can contact DTSC about this at the email that is there, which is tagflux@dtsc.ca.gov. All right, and then so as I was saying, the Center for Creative Land Recycling, we are here to help you with application assistance. I didn't formally introduce myself in the beginning, but my name is Nicole Lang, and I am a Senior Program Associate with C-Clear, or CCLR. You'll typically hear people refer to us as C-Clear. And C-Clear is a nonprofit dedicated to transforming communities by empowering municipalities and community groups to repurpose vacant and contaminated lands. And we are DTSC's application assistance provider for the TAG program. So me, along with my other colleagues, including Tamara Cardona Merrick, whose picture is there, we are available to answer questions about the TAG program, including discussing your eligibility and walking you through the application process. We can also help you find a project site. We can assist you with application development and also help you with finding support you in finding a technical advisor. So right there, you want to please note the link to sign up for an appointment with us, which is that calendly.com/tag-help, or you can email us at tag@cclr.org. And again, these slides will be uploaded to the DTSC website, so you can easily click it there. And I also believe that Vivian is dropping that Calendly link into the chat as well, if you would like to copy it down right now. And okay, so we are going to go ahead and go to Q&A. So I believe we only have one question so far in the chat. There may be some more that I have missed. Let's see. Okay, we did have another one. Okay, so we're gonna first go through the ones that are in the chat already. If you have any others, please go ahead and drop them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and then you will unmute yourself and come on camera. I don't believe we have anybody joining us by phone, but if you are on a phone, you would dial *9 to raise your hand, and then after your name is called, you will dial *6 to unmute yourself. All right, so let's go to the first question from Deborah. It says, is the grantee the same as the grant manager in Fluxx, or can these be different names? So I'd say that might be a question for Monica to answer.
Yeah, so these can be different, and that's why we have the space there for it.
Okay, great. And let's see, the next question we have from Magali is there an inventory list of land locations that can help us identify land around where our organization is located? So what I think you're referring to, I don't know if you want to come on camera or unmute yourself to clarify, but from what I'm understanding, what would help you is using the mapping tool that Monica discussed. And when you go to that mapping tool, you can enter in the address of your organization, and then it will go to your organization's address, and it will pop up with sites that are surrounding your area. And when we are talking about, can't recall if we discussed this previously, but I don't think we did, but you want to make sure that your grant manager is located within 5 miles of the site that you are applying for. So that address is really the most important one when applying to the grant. But yes, that tool is very important. I think somebody can likely drop that. Oh, yep, Vivian dropped that in the chat for you right there, the tag mapping tool. If I did not answer your question, Magali, please feel free to clarify that in the chat box, or like I said, you can come on and ask the question verbally.
Yeah.
Nicole, before you moved on, or sorry, I did want to just make a quick note because I know someone asked about the grant manager. Is in the application where it asks about the grant manager, there is a description as to what a grant manager is. So if you're unclear as to what a grant manager is versus a grantee, there is some information about that in the application.
Okay, great. In the guidelines, right? You said in the guidelines or the
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for clarifying, Monica.
Nicole.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for this
yeah.
wonderful presentation.
Thank you for your questions.
Yeah, so the reason why I'm asking is because before I start the application, I would like to see the land around, which I see that Monica already put it there, I believe, or Vivian. Where I can access the land, right? Is that it, the tag mapping tool?
Yeah, that's the tool where you would put in your address and it shows sites on the map that are close to you.
Okay, and then once I identify the land, and this is only for cleaning of the land. This has nothing to do with the what we would like to do on the land, right?
Are you saying for the what is the purpose of the grant funding?
So I understand that the purpose of the grant funding is for technical assistance to do some testing on the land that we are seeking to do something on top of it, right? We want to clean up. And there's also land that has been vacated. Does that count as well? Because I noticed that on the that was mentioned.
Let me make sure I'm understanding correctly. Maybe Ed will understand already because I know he's ready to answer the question. But are you talking about for doing testing and things like that?
That is vacated. I'm pretty sure there has to be testing, right?
Yeah.
To make sure that it's not contaminated or toxics are not there, or if they are, then we can request the cleanup.
Yeah, let me take a shot at it, Nicole. I'd be glad to. Good question. Thank you. Thanks for asking that. The grant funds itself are to be kind of supporting the area, the community around a site that is already in some stage of the cleanup process and is being overseen by DTSC and that for that cleanup process. So that's what the funds support. In terms of the testing itself, though, the testing is to confirm that the neighborhood around the site has not been impacted by that site that's already under the kind of a cleanup action by TTSC. So that can be kind of confusing, I know, but I hope that helps.
Yes, it does a lot. So there's the differences between one that has already been identified and it's working on the cleanup process, and the other one is to address that it hasn't contaminated other areas.
Yeah, exactly. So it's meant to say some facility, some industrial facility was operating on that site that may have had air pollution and may have contributed air pollution adjacent to the site. This is to give the residents and the community the opportunity to confirm that hopefully their properties have not been contaminated by that property or by that site, or when cleanup is actually happening at that site, when they're moving a lot of dirt around, that the dust isn't being created that could impact the community. So there'd be monies available for the community to make sure that the air is clean adjacent to that site.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, great. I am not seeing any more questions in the chat, so if you have any more, feel free to drop them there. Like I said, you can raise your hand and then, all right, go ahead. I don't want to mispronounce your name. Do you want to pronounce your name for me so I know how to say it correctly?
Hi, Mary Leah.
Oh, okay, that's what I figured. Okay, you can go ahead. Thank
I
you.
thought I put one in the chat, but maybe it didn't go. I have two questions. One, I will check the guidelines, but my understanding from my first look is that the grants manager can be a staff person or with the organization, but not necessarily the executive director if the executive director wants somebody else to manage the grant. Is that correct?
That's not my understanding. Maybe I'm missing something. Do you want to?
I think you're correct. I mean, I think the key point is that the grant manager is actually embedded in the community itself, right?
It's embedded in the community itself and embedded in the organization.
Yeah.
I happen to be the old executive director and we've hired next generation executive director, and I'm now senior advisor. But I managed our old EPA tag, and I'll be managing the DTSC tag should we receive one. I just wanted to make sure I can put myself in as the grant manager in the application and embedded both in the community and the group.
Yeah, I that works to be both. It's just the key defining element though is that grant manager needs to be within that 5-mile radius of the site for which the grant is being applied for.
I understand.
Okay.
My second question is actually prompted by your response early just now. I understand soil sampling because we talked about that in the December tag workshop. But are air monitors potentially eligible as a sampling tool? Because that would be very relevant. Okay.
Yes, they are. I mean, we would encourage the use of air monitoring tools because that's one of the means that we see represents confirmation sampling, that that you're confirming that actual cleanup is not impacting the community itself. So yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, great questions. Thank you. Let me check the chat here. Okay, not seeing any other questions. Does anybody have any others where they want to come on camera and ask? Or you don't have to come on camera, but you can unmute yourself. Or if you want to drop them in the chat. Even if you've already asked a question, we welcome more questions. So don't feel hesitant. Okay, go ahead, Magali. You can unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, I'm going through the map right now.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have a way to put the zip code, but I am dropping a pin.
Mhm.
And I found an area where it says a recycling company. But then I started thinking about the application. That is already a tag project right there, right? And it says tag on the little
Well,
circle.
Oh, no.
Do you mind? Yeah, sorry. That means that it's a tag eligible site. So it's eligible to apply for.
Right.
Ooh, okay, so that is really close to where I am.
Yeah, so what you want to be looking for is those little dots because those are sites that are being overseen by DTSC, and those are the sites that you would be applying for. So that you're seeing that little dot, that's a good sign that if you're seeing that it's near you, that would be an eligible site.
But how do I know? Because I have several of them
Mhm.
around. How would I know which one is closer? Because I can really like zoom in more.
I think if you can't plug in your address, I would say plug in your address to there, and then you can kind of just visually see, or if you want to copy down the address that is listed for the tag site, and maybe put that into Google Maps and you can kind of see which is closer. But I would also recommend looking at the details for the site to see which your community may be more concerned about. I don't know if anybody else has a better idea of how to go about that.
I just to add to it, you're absolutely right. I think if there are multiple sites in the vicinity of where you live, you have the option. You can pick from any of those sites to apply for a tag for. So just like Nicole says, yeah, it's worth doing some research on each of those sites that are eligible for you to see which would be of greatest concern to you. And the way you can do that is you can actually go onto DTSC's website and find out more information on those sites. And if you have questions about that, I think going to a CClear advisor, they can kind of guide you through that process too.
Yes,
So
definitely recommend you sign up for application assistance appointment with us.
will do. I'm gonna do that because I see many of them. And by the way,
Okay.
I'm in Wilmington.
Ah,
Okay, great. Yeah, we would love to help you if you schedule an appointment with us.
And I just wanted to make a quick note that on the DTSC mapping tool, when you click on a site, there is a link for the EnviroStore public facing link. So when you click on that site, you can click on the EnviroStore link and then you'll see some background information about each of the sites there.
Yeah, and that also includes what potential contaminants are there. So it's really helpful if you click on that for more information.
My name is Gracia Orozco, she, they pronouns, and I am an attorney with the Center on Race, Poverty, and the Environment. We're a small nonprofit organization. We're very small. So I think one of the questions that I had was, since this is a reimbursement-based grant, I wanted to know more about opportunities about applying and maybe getting like funds up front if we don't have the funds to, like, that's what's really holding us back from applying. We don't have the funds to hire a technical advisor. But we're still interested in if DTSC works things out with organizations like ours.
Okay, great question. Yeah, so the advance pay will definitely help with that because you can apply for up to 25% of your grant to be paid upfront through that. You also want to take in consideration when you are creating your contract terms with your TA that they are aware that the grant is reimbursement based, so they will not be receiving the funds upfront. You have to essentially let them know they won't be paid for X amount of days because you have to wait to receive the funds before you disperse them to them. So that is something really important. And if you schedule an application assistance appointment with us, we can talk with you about that a little bit more. Ed, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that.
no, I think you got it covered. Thank you, Nicole.
Okay, sounds good.
I was
Does-
going to answer there. I saw a question in the chat about ECRG programs and the ECRG sites, and the new sites there. ECRG, for those of you who don't know, is a brownfields program that's part of the overall umbrella, as is the TAG program for cleanup in vulnerable communities. Those are grants actually available to potential redevelopers of sites, including governments and nonprofits, to be able to restore those properties for viable use. ECRG, those new sites will indeed be on the listed on the application on the GIS tool that Monica walked through. So yes, those will be part of the program. They will be eligible for community technical assistance grants, but one caveat there though is that the actual ECRG grant applicant will not be eligible to receive also a TAG grant. And the reason for that is the ECRG applicant is the property owner for that property to be developed. And that is one of the criteria that's evaluated as part of the application, that the owner itself of the property of the cleanup is not going to be eligible for TAG grants. But that being said, the communities surrounding those ECRG sites are indeed eligible to receive a TAG grant.
Okay, thank you, Ed. All right, so from Gracia, we have another question. Are there advisors that are friendly to this grant being reimbursement? At a reimbursement, it's a reimbursement process that can be recommended. So we are currently formulating our system for how we connect TAs with community groups and give you some TAs that we are aware of that may be potentially able to help. If you sign up for application assistance with us, we can definitely go into that in more detail with you. But that is a process that we're currently working on of how to link together technical advisors that we are aware of that could potentially help you with the grant. So that is a great question. Like I said, encourage you to sign up for application assistance and we can talk with you about it more. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. Please be sure to drop them there or raise your hand if you would like to come on and just verbally ask them. All right. Give everybody about a minute or so to drop any questions. Yeah, go ahead, Gracia. You can go ahead and unmute.
I'm so sorry for all the questions.
No, it's great. Ask us as many questions as you can while we're here.
Yeah, there's an active cleanup site in one of the cities that we're potentially interested in using a TAG grant for. However, residents are also concerned that the contamination from that cleanup site has spread to like other locations in the city that aren't on the, the map of the sites that are listed for the TAG grant. Do you think the technical advisor would be able to like research those sites if residents believe or know that it might be stemming from the same cleanup site? Like how much flexibility is there for extending like cleanup and the checkings?
Yeah,
that's a great question. I think Ed is ready to tackle it. So
absolutely. Thank you. That is a great question. Thank you. Yeah, I'd say in most cases, yes. And that is when we establish kind of the eligible radius around one of these cleanup sites to be 5 miles. 5 miles in almost all cases is a pretty significant distance. So especially if the contamination is from the soil and the groundwater, and there's concern about that spreading off of that cleanup site, definitely 5 miles is a lot. Air contamination, 5 miles is pretty significant in that regard in terms of most air contaminants spreading off site. So that is where a technical advisor could clearly help and advise and consult with regard to either the actual interpretation of the data about that site, or, and this is a really good case in terms of confirmation sampling or community science. You know, there might be opportunities where the technical advisor can actually help develop a soil sampling program, for instance, if the community thinks that their soils have been impacted, and sample that and send those analysis to a laboratory. That's one reason why we've established these grants as high as $150,000 a piece, to be able to accommodate things like soil sampling costs, which can be pretty expensive. Thank you for that question.
Yes, thank you, Ed. All right, so we have a question in the chat asking us to explain more about the letter of intent process. Right, so great question. So after you have formulated your letter of intent, you're going to go ahead and email that to DTSC. It's going to be that second email that is up right there, which is DTSC_tag program@dtsc.ca.gov. Once they receive that letter, they will email you back confirming that they have received it, and then it will be posted to the website so that other people can see the letter is there and that your group intends on applying for the program. And then it's going to be 15 days that you as the applicant have to wait until you submit your application, because as Ed said in the beginning, we want to give other community groups the opportunity to potentially collaborate with you or decide if they would be interested in applying for the program as well. So once that 15-day period is over, then you have 30 days to submit your application. And that process is listed on the TAG website. If you missed anything that I said, you can go on there and it does lay it all out for you. And just again, want to reiterate that 15-day period is very important so that we give other community groups the chance to collaborate with you and learn about the program. So great question. All right. All right, and then we have a follow-up question. Can you work on the application during the time? So yes, you're more than welcome to work on the application. You just aren't allowed to submit the application until after that 15-day period is closed. So you want to make sure you're kind of doing some forward thinking and thinking about the fact that you have to wait after you upload that letter. So that is it does give you a good amount of time to work on your application, but do keep in mind that there may be a community group that comes to you and wants to collaborate, so you may need to adjust some things and change it. So all up to you in how you want to approach that, given that you need to wait those 15 days, and then you will have 30 days after the application period closes to submit your application.